This is something I probably didn't expect to make a video on, but I feel like it's something that I should probably talk about so that people understand it, right? So this is a very common phenomenon you'll see. And a lot of people who haven't gotten to the level of Japanese where they can hear other foreigners speak Japanese and understand where they're messing up and some things they're saying weird, like you're in still the beginning stages of Japanese, probably don't realize this, but you'll notice, right, that a lot of people who either spend all their time talking to Japanese girls, like if you're a man, I'm talking about, of course, you're a dude and you're talking to Japanese girls nonstop, or you've got a Japanese girlfriend, you'll see all these guys who genuinely sound full on like a chick. Like, sick. If you want to sound like that, cool, bro. Like, that's mad. But there is a big difference between how women and men speak in Japanese on average. Like, you will sound super gay if you sound... And again, if you want to sound like that, that's mad. Like, go for it. But I'm just letting you know that if you don't want to sound like that, you might end up sounding like that if you're constantly talking to girls and trying to mimic them. Because obviously, like, if you're constantly, like, talking to someone, you take on some of their aspects of speaking, right? Some of their mannerisms, some things that you will just think are natural because you hear them doing it, and you'll think like, oh, all Japanese people must talk like that. But it's like, no, just girls speak like that. So you're going to talk to other guys and they're going to think, oh, this guy's trying to fuck me. You know, like, you should probably be aware of this, all right? You need to understand that if you're constantly talking to girls, you're going to take on their mannerisms and you're going to talk like a chick. This same thing happens, right, when people constantly watch anime. People don't realize this, and it fucking does my head in, to be honest. But, like, people constantly say, oh, if I watch slice of life anime, I watch this anime, whatever, it's all good because it's like daily life. It's like, mate, I guess SpongeBob's like daily life, or Peppa Pig, but if you watch that all day, you're probably going to sound like a little weirdo, right? It just isn't real life. It just isn't. So you need to understand that whatever you listen to, there's going to be, like, especially in Japanese, there's small little details. Even in English, think of it this way. Let's think of like The Simpsons. That's an everyday, anime in English, right? Or Shrek. Shrek isn't everyday, but let's say The Simpsons, that's an everyday thing. They don't talk like your average people on the street, do they? It's still, like, created in a way to be entertaining as a cartoon. It's different. So it's the same thing in Japanese, where if you're, like, constantly listening to anime, you're going to take on all these tiny little mannerisms that are only existing in anime, and you're going to emulate that in your speech to a very small, like, even to the smallest degree, and people will pick up on it. I see it all the time. I'm not going to name names, right? But I see all these guys out here, Instagram, YouTube, this and that, teaching the immersion learning method, and they're so obviously learned their base in anime because I can hear them speak and I instantly know. And then on the flip side of that, there's people like, even people within this school that I've known for years who have learned Japanese using my methods. Shout out to Nick, he's in here if you've seen him. But him, for instance, you listen to his Japanese and straight away you go, oh, he's learned from YouTube. I can just tell. He's either lived in Japan or he's learned from YouTube. And there's some people like that. You just listen to them and they're like, oh, he's done the whole thing I've said. He's picked the language parent sort of thing, or he's emulated some sort of natural speech off of YouTube or, podcast or something like that. And it's just so obvious. I can tell straight away. It's just in the small details that makes a difference. And that's what, for me, people say my Japanese is this and that. That's the only reason. It's not because I'm talented or anything like that. It's just because I learned from that. And to the finest details, I have taken that in. And whatever you build up your base in the language, you spend the overwhelming majority of time learning at the start, you're going to pick up on those small details. It is true. There's these little details that you're going to start to emulate. So if you're talking to your Japanese girlfriend or girls all the time, and you're not talking to, like, guys, or watching heaps of, like, immersion with guys speaking together, you're going to start to talk like a girl, and you're going to not just talk in the way that you talk, but the interactions with people, you're going to get too used to the sort of, like, rhythm and humor and that of other girls. So you're going to talk like another girl. The way that guys joke around with each other and girls joke around with each other is different. It's the same in any language, obviously. So if you're only talking to girls, you're going to come off a bit odd when you talk to guys, and a bit foreign, I'd say, and, a bit gay. But again, no problems if you want to sound like that. That's sick. If you want to sound like Kemio, go watch Kemio and you can emulate that. But you need to be aware of what you're sounding like. It's less about what's good or bad, and more about what do you want to sound like, and being aware of what you're going to sound like via, the methods of learning that you're using. So just be aware of these things, okay?